Welcome to Development Book Club. Today we continue with the Buddhist teachings on social and communal harmony. We'll cover 3 chapters today. Good friendship, on one's own good and the good of others, and the intentional community. So we'll hop right in. On good friendship, we have a sutta on the 7 qualities of a true friend, which the Buddha says. Monks, one should associate with a friend who possesses 7 factors. What 7? He gives up what is hard to give up. He does what is hard to do. He patiently endures what is hard to endure. He reveals his secrets to you. He preserves your secrets. He does not forsake you when you are in trouble, and he does not roughly despise you. One should associate with a friend who possesses these 7 factors. And among monastics, Buddha says, monks, one should associate with a monk friend who possesses 7 qualities. One should resort to him and attend to him even if he dismisses you. What 7 are those? He is pleasing and agreeable. He is respected and esteemed. He is a speaker. He patiently endures being spoken to. He gives deep talks, and he does not enjoin one to do what is wrong. So good influences. Furthermore, on friendship and monastic life, Ananda approached Buddha and says, Ananda was his assistant, I believe, for a long, long time. Paid homage to him, sat down to one side and said, Bhante, which is spelled B-H-A-N-T-E, and I've seen the Buddha refer to that for the first time in this book, this translation. It says, Bhante, this is half of the spiritual life. That is, good friendship, good companionship, good comradeship. Not so, Ananda. Not so, Ananda. This is the Buddha talking now. This is the entire spiritual life, Ananda. That is, good friendship, good companionship, good comradeship. When a monk has a good friend, good companion, a good comrade, it is to be expected that he will develop and cultivate the Noble Eightfold Path. I want to read a note from Bhikkhu Bodhi's introduction to this chapter here. Yes, he says, monastic, speaking of, so this is like friendship and monastery, right? And he says, monastic life in early Buddhism is sometimes imagined to be a solitary adventure in which the aspirant perpetually, quote, dwells alone, withdrawn, diligent, ardent, and resolute, unquote. And that is a quote from a different set of teachers that are not listed here. So he says, Bodhi again says, there are indeed texts that convey such an impression. For instance, in verse after verse of the Kaggavisana Sutta of the Suttanipata enjoins the earnest seeker to forsake the crowd and, quote, wander alone like the horn of a rhinoceros, unquote. And he continues, he says, taken in isolation, these texts can be read as endorsing a highly individualistic version of monastic life in which all companionship is to be avoided. In actuality, however, just the opposite is the prevalent model. The Buddha created a community of men and women. This is the Sangha, one of the 3 jewels or refuges of Buddhism. And this community dedicated to the full-time practice of his teaching. And just as he advised lay people to associate with good friends, he also instructed monastics to seek out good companions and guides in the spiritual life. He says that just as the dawn is the forerunner of the sunrise, so good friendship is the forerunner of a rising of the Noble Eightfold Path. The quote, one thing very helpful for the arising of the Eightfold Noble Path, unquote, about friendship. And he adds, there is no other factor so conducive to the arising of the path as good friendship. So, monastics were not meant to be solitary. Or, I mean, while there are quotes that would suggest this or even recommend it, there's a lot of information. Friendship. Chapter 6, one's own good and the good of others. In this chapter, many of the suttas break down lists of 4. So there's like those who want good for themselves, but not good for others. Those who want good for others, but not for themselves. Those who want good for neither, and those who want good for both themselves and others. This sort of breakdown follows through the chapter. For example, and how is a person practicing both for his own welfare and the welfare of others? Question mark. Here, some person practices to remove his own lust, hatred, and delusion, and he encourages others to remove their lust, hatred, and delusion. In this way, it is in this way that a person is practicing both for his own welfare and the welfare of others. Another question. And how is a person practicing both for his own welfare and the welfare of others? Here, some person himself abstains from the destruction of life, encourages others to abstain from the destruction of life. He abstains from liquor, wine, and intoxicants, and encourages others to abstain from them. It is in this way that he is practicing both for his own welfare and the welfare of others. Chapter 7 is the intentional community. This is opposed. There are two types of communities that arise amongst people. We're told in the introduction to this chapter, Rabbi Kubodi says there are natural, which we do not form them, but we find ourselves immersed in them, and intentional communities, which are formed deliberately, and there are qualifications for membership, and they are governed by rules and regulations. A potentially controversial sutta at the time, and maybe even now, is there's a section on caste is irrelevant, and the notes say that this sutta is meant for life in the monastery, and that we will discuss later in chapter 10 the implications of this for society at large. So caste is irrelevant. The Buddha says, just as when the great rivers, the Ganges, the Yamuna, the Asuravati, the Sara, and the Mahi, when those great rivers reach the ocean, they give up their former names and designations and are simply called the great ocean. So too, when members of the four castes go forth from the household into homelessness in the Dhamma and discipline proclaimed by the Tathagata, the Buddha, they give up their former names and clans and are simply called ascetics following the Sakyan son, Buddha's dad's son. Additionally, I'll read you one more here. 7 principles of non-decline of a group. And these are, if these things are done, only growth is to be expected from them, not decline, the Buddha says for each of these. If the members, 1, assemble often and hold frequent assemblies, assemble in harmony, adjourn in harmony, and conduct their affairs in harmony, undertake and follow the ancient principles as they have been decreed, honor, respect, esteem, and venerate the elders, and think they should be heeded, do not abduct women and girls from their families and force them to live with them. Interesting they have to say that. Honor, respect, esteem, and venerate their traditional shrines, both those within the city and those outside, and do not neglect the righteous oblations as given and done to them in the past. And finally, provide righteous protection, shelter, and guard for arahants, so those arahants who have not yet come may arrive, and those who have already come may dwell at ease there. 7 principles of non-decline in a group. Thank you for watching.